dangerous. This is very dangerous.
Nearby, Josephine felt helpless but remained calm and composed.
I remember one time saying to God, "Get me out of here. I'll never ask for anything again." And I said, "Nope, I'm not going to say that."
The next thing the survivors remember is that down in the depths of Stairway B, the dust lifted, and it was as if another miracle had happened.
All of a sudden, a ray of sunshine hit the stairway. You know, you're looking at it, you're in this darkness, and all of a sudden, a ray of sunshine hits the floor. I said, "Where's that coming from?"
It was just clearly sunlight. Maybe it was about 12 inches wide, and it was all peppered with this dirt and debris and running through it. But it was the most beautiful sight in the world. It was almost hard to believe the sunlight coming. I mean, this is a 110-story building fell down right on top of us, and I'm on the third floor looking at sunlight.
The hole letting in the sunlight proved to be the way out of Stairway B. The first trapped fireman to emerge through the hole set up a rope, and some of the survivors began to climb out. The others were still trapped beneath the wreckage.
Somebody goes, "There's a fireman." And sure enough, we looked out through this hole, and there was a fireman.
He goes, "How close are you?" And I just said, "I'm going to scream." And I screamed at the top of my lungs, probably to let out some emotion. And he said, "Oh, okay, I got you. You're right over there." I could just see them starting to come out of the hole. This incredible area, and I can't believe there's people walking out of this spot. It's just so dangerous. And where did they come from? Where were they?
After being buried for over 4 hours, the firemen were astonished by the scale of the devastation surrounding them.
I looked around and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. You know, all I could see is fire and smoke and twisted debris. And it looked like we had just been hit by a nuclear bomb. You know, I said, wow, I can't believe I survived this.
The first rescued fireman set off across the treacherous debris field with one of the Ladder 43 crew leading the way. Meanwhile, Glenn Rohan climbed down into Stairway B to look after Josephine and the other survivors who were still trapped inside.
I remember seeing him come down, and he's on a rope. How are they going to get me out of here on a rope? You look around at the place, it's totally disaster.
I said to Josephine, "You're okay. You're going to be fine. We have more people coming and more equipment. We'll get you out of here safely."
Having put Josephine at ease, Glenn Rohan then turned his attention to Jim McGlynn, who wouldn't leave without 2 of his crew members who were trapped below him in a narrow void.
I said, "Okay, great, Glenn. What do you have with you? Do you have a rescue? Do you have a squad? Who's with you?" And he says, "At the moment, it's just me." And I said, "Okay, well, we have a problem."
You can just hear the disappointment in his voice. He's like, "Oh, we're going to be here so much. How are we going to get my guys out? We got to get my guys out."
While Glenn Rohan went to work digging out the 2 trapped firemen, the battered survivors who had been rescued from Stairway B now faced a new ordeal. They had to make their way across a debris field made up of mountains of rubble and deep voids in the ruins of the World Trade Center.
There was no solid footing there. This was just twisted, bent up beams. Some were cut. There was sharp edges. There was nothing solid.
After an hour of relentless effort, Glenn Rohan and his crew managed to dig out the last 2 remaining firemen of Ladder 39 from the void where they had been trapped. All 14 survivors from Stairway B were now free from the building, but they still had to make it to safe ground. Mike Meldrum's back was injured, and he was very unstable on his feet. He feared he wouldn't be able to make it through the 16-acre debris field, littered with 30-foot-high hills of broken beams and shifting masonry.
I remember saying to myself, I don't know how the hell I'm going to do this. I just don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, if you missed a step, if you fell, there was no way to get you back. Mike looks at me and he says, "Cap, I can't do it. I can't climb up." I said, "Yes, you can. You can climb up." He says, no, I can't. I says, Mike, your wife and kids are on the other side of that hill.
Mike Meldrum did find the strength to make it to safety, as did all the 14 survivors who were buried in Stairway B. Remarkably, none of them were seriously injured. All were given first aid as soon as they came out. This is one of the survivors, Billy Butler, on a trolley being given medical attention. The first thing Mike Meldrum wanted to do was to escape from the nightmarish landscape and get back to the security of his fire engine.
I remember looking for the trucks, because all the trucks were there. And I could see the walkway bridges. They were down. I couldn't see any trucks. There were no... I says, my truck should be somewhere right here. And I couldn't see it. All it was just mounds and mounds of debris. And that was the first time I really got to look back. And there was nothing in these buildings.
3 p.m. Jay Jonas was looking for a command post to report in. He saw Chief Hayden standing on top of a fire truck, coordinating the rescue operation.
Jay came up, and he reported. He stood there, and I'm looking down at him, and he saluted me, and he says, Captain Jonas, reporting for duty. And I just couldn't help but smile at him, because this was one of the bright moments of the day.
It was a very emotional moment for him and I. He looks down, and he starts crying. I look up and I'm crying. And he says, Jay, it's good to see you. He says, it's good to be here.
Mickey Cross was wandering around in a daze, trying to find his crew members. Then he saw a man behind a desk at an improvised command post.
There was a flat table with some papers on it, and it was the chief sitting there. And I said, that looks like someplace I should go. And I said, I'm Lieutenant Mickey Cross, Engine 16. So he looks at me, he goes, he has this list of names. He goes, oh, geez, we have you missing. I presumed dead. He says, no, I'm here. And then I asked him, I says, where's my company? Did they all get out okay?
All of Mickey's crew were out of the North Tower before the collapse occurred and survived. But Mickey's girlfriend, Christine, had no news of his whereabouts.
The condition of the men that I saw and the women coming out of there, it didn't look promising. And it's, 3 o'clock-ish, and still there was no word about Mickey.
As soon as Jim McGlynn had received first aid, he started worrying about the other firemen in his unit.
I just went over and I got myself checked out, and I had a lot of dust in my eyes and glass, and I guess they washed them out. Nobody was sure of where people were, of the magnitude of our losses. There were estimates of 100, 200, 300 dead, but nobody was really sure.
All the men in Jim's unit survived, and at last his girlfriend Kathleen got the news she desperately wanted to hear. Jim was safe.
I felt my whole body just feel relieved. And I just said my prayers of thanks.
James F. Tamiade suffered severe breathing problems. He was given emergency treatment, then taken to hospital. Before he went, he managed to speak to his wife.
I called my wife. I said, it's me. I just want you to know I'm okay. I gotta go. Call my mom. Let her know I'm okay. So she says, okay.
There was relief and euphoria at having survived against all the odds. But there would be a price to pay for those who owed their life to the miracle of Stairway B. By night time on 9/11, the burst of optimism that came from finding the survivors of Stairway B was beginning to fade. While exhausted firemen went home, the 14 survivors themselves were shell-shocked. Sal D'Agostino had made it back to his fire station.
Well, we get back to the firehouse, and we walked into the office, which is right off the apparatus floor, watching it on TV, and that's when we really hit us the magnitude of this whole thing. I went upstairs to take a shower, and I basically was in the shower, and that's when I kind of broke down. I started crying in the shower, and shaking, and just a mess, basically.
After a long and difficult rescue, Josephine was given a medical checkup. Then she went home.
And when I got home, I looked at myself in the mirror and I had to take steps back. I was shocked to what I looked like. I get the television on and I start hearing all this. And I lost it. I just lost it. Right there in the middle of the floor. Just unbelievable.
For hours, Mickey Cross aimlessly wandered the streets before returning to his fire station in the evening, where he was reunited with his girlfriend, Christine.
Me and Christine walked to my apartment, and I must have fallen asleep. I don't remember the rest of the night. She says I was yelling in my sleep that night. I don't recall.
Mick shook like a leaf and screamed all night long in his sleep. He has no recollection of it. You couldn't go near him. It was like he was going to snap like a tree branch.
As the night wore on, Glenn Rowan and his unit eventually went home exhausted.
I wanted to see everyone. I wanted to hold my wife. I wanted to see my kids. They were all sleeping, of course, but just wanted to spend some time in their rooms. Just being so fortunate that I was able to do this. And so many of our guys aren't going to be able to do it today.
However, for the 14 who survived inside the collapsing North Tower, it was very difficult to return to everyday life. Very soon, the trauma of their near-death experience came back to haunt them.
About 3 days later, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, uncontrollably shaking. My wife was going to call an ambulance for me, but I convinced her somehow not to do that. And evidently, it took 3 days for all the adrenaline to come out of my body, and then I started feeling everything. The emotion, the pain in my leg and my back. It all came out about 3 days later.
The survivors dealt with the emotional fallout of 9/11 in the most unexpected and extraordinary ways. Mickey Cross asked to be assigned to search and rescue operations. Immediately going back to the scene of his worst nightmare proved to be terrifying, but therapeutic.
We were approaching the World Trade Center, coming down West Street, and I was sitting in the front of the bus in the first seat, and I'm looking at the Trade Center, and I saw all the smoke, and the structures were up, and the burning, it was like an orange glow, and that was the first time I got scared, and I remember thinking, what the heck am I doing coming down here? And after a while, I just got used to it. I got over that uncomfortable feeling. I wanted to do my part, to help fix this thing. And it wasn't just finding firefighters, because I'm a firefighter. It was just finding the people.
The remains of several hundred people were recovered from Ground Zero and ceremonially buried. But there was no trace left at all of over 1,500 who died. For those who had cheated death in Stairway B, there were mixed emotions, and few could escape the agonies of survivors' guilt.
The effect it had on me initially was very euphoric feeling. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain. There was a euphoric feeling about being alive, and then there was also a lot of guilt and depression about being alive. At one point, you want to jump up and down and let everybody know you're alive. The other point is a lot of good guys didn't make it. A lot of civilians got killed, and who am I to say anything? So, initially I didn't want to talk to anybody about it.
Then came the soul searching. The survivors tried to make sense of every move they made that morning and every decision that led them to the lower levels of Stairway B, where they lived whilst all others around them died.
There were several points in the day that we could have taken a different turn, and it would have been catastrophic for us. I wish I knew, I wish I could say that I knew all the decisions I were making were the right decisions, and that's not true.
Josephine believes it truly was a miracle, and that she was intended to be there that day.
That morning, I had said to myself, "Oh, my stomach hurts." And I told myself, "Josephine, get an Alka-Seltzer and go to work." And I forgot all about the stomach ache and everything and went on to work. I was supposed to be there. Because if they were going at their pace, if I was going at their pace, we wouldn't be here.
Stopping to save Josephine Harris, that was really a major decision for us, for me and my guys, and for her too. If we didn't stop to save her, where would we have been?
The firemen who survived have told their story to bear witness to the courage of their colleagues. 343 died on 9/11. It was the darkest day in the history of New York's fire department. The miracle of Stairway B is remembered as a moment of hope amidst the tragedy of that day.
There probably isn't one of us in the group that could rattle off 30 or 40 names of guys that they knew, that they had a couple of beers with, that they went to fires with, that we lost that day. It's something that we don't want to forget. We're not going to forget it.